the only Jenny Hutt.
Lucky you. Yeah.
No, listen, you know what? It is lucky me because I was like preparing for this. I was like, oh, I know her. I could just prepare like maybe last minute. We're going to have
Oh
a
my God.
casual,
Yeah.
nice
Oh yeah.
show.
So simple. Yeah.
You're across the pond in Long Island.
Yes. Yeah.
I I know you're home because I was just on your podcast and I learned that you are just as big a homebody as I am.
I am a shut-in. Proudly, I was built for the pandemic.
Are people like shocked to find that out? Because I think people, if they really
Mm.
listen to the words I'm saying, I'm like, I'm not making this up. I really, truly would be thrilled to never leave my house. It's fine.
I think, look, for years I was on SiriusXM and I would interview a lot of super fabulous, fancy people. This is before I started my Just Jenny podcast, which now is still daily. It's like I never left live radio, David. You know how it is, this like everyday thing, which I love. I'm thrilled doing the podcast, but I think anybody who's listened to me for any amount of time knows that if I'm not working, I want to be in my bed or on my couch. I want to be with my dogs and my husband and my kids. Like, that's it. So I'm not sure they all want to be with me, by the way, but that's what I want.
So at least, I mean, I think if I didn't work so hard, maybe like I understand why people want to go out. I actually get it.
You really? What is it? What is the draw? Like, why?
Well, okay, let me take that back. I actually don't think there's a draw. I think that if I didn't like for the brief period in my life when I really didn't work, that became my work. So because I have that type of personality, then it was like, okay, so Monday's booked. So I kind of made going out and having a social life my job. I guess that was the only part that I understood. And then I had the energy because then that was the main focus. I don't know how you have a life and a job and still want to go out. I'm exhausted and I don't want to speak to anyone.
Well, I think for me, I always found that when my kids were little and I was working, I felt like when I was out of the house for work, that though that wasn't sort of fun or an actual indulgence, it felt indulgent to me to be away from my children. And so that was sort of the time that I took as like the going out time. I didn't ever really do girls' nights out, or my husband and I were pretty much always home with our kids when they were little. We weren't the kind of parents that were traveling without the children or going out all night, partying, like we just put them first. Yeah. So it's like either we were both working or we were both effectively at home with the kids. And so that sort of has been how my life is. So it's still that way, even with my kids that they're grown-ups. So it's like we have the dogs and and also how many restaurants do we really need to go to? Like at some point when you have lived in the same place for many years, it's like, I know where to get the best sushi, or I know where to get the best, I don't eat steak, but theoretically the best steakhouse or whatever. And where am I going? I can hang out with people here. If people want to come over, they're always welcome. I have an open door policy.
That's kind of how I am.
Yeah.
Well, you did start your Just Jenny podcast. How long were you at Sirius? I don't even know. I know it was a long time.
So I started broadcasting out of SiriusXM in 2005. So 2005 through the beginning of November of 2022. So over 17 years, I did live radio there daily. And it was amazing. It was on the job training. I love my family at SiriusXM. And when my show ended, it was really hard because it was during sort of other hard stuff going on in my life. So it was like a lot at once. But I understood it was time. The channel that I was on was not going to be a channel anymore. There wasn't really a place for my show to land. And they were, I guess, just not interested in continuing it. So my contract wasn't renewed. And that was, for my ego, like crushing. But, cognitively, I understood that had they not done that, I probably wouldn't have taken the leap of faith and started my podcast. And I think that the growth potential here is so much better than what I had there. So
I think so. I mean, was there like one highlight that stands out from all your years at Sirius?
Well, I've made great friends. I've interviewed so many people. That was really That was really cool. I interviewed Dolly. Can you edit that? I
Yeah.
interviewed.
You can email Dolly Parton on a day.
Anytime. Yeah. I interviewed Dolly Parton, and that was great. But that was something that it wasn't really because of SiriusXM. I kind of hustled and got that done myself, but they were my support, which was great because they had to go with me to her hotel to do the actual interview. And then I was able to put it up in my show. I met good friends while being there in just regular people. And then, I learned a trade. I learned how to be a broadcaster, and I would have never learned prior to if I hadn't been there.
Was Dolly like your favorite interview ever?
I love Dolly. I mean, Dolly Parton, when I was a kid, my dad was a record producer. He was actually and a music publisher, just all around music business person. And he was the one who really helped Dolly cross over from country to pop. And that was with the song Here You Come Again. And he had brought it to her and said, you need to record this because this is going to be your crossover hit. And she was like, no. And then he's like, just listen. And she was like, yes. And then the rest is history. So we got to revisit that story, and which was very cool. And at the time, I've since lost my father, but at the time it was really neat to be able to then bring home the interview and all the stories my dad had told. She completely confirmed, and it was just really lovely. But as a kid, I was in the studio with him and her, and for a couple of albums, and for a few years, maybe like 10 years, we spent some time with Dolly, some significant time with Dolly, and I loved her. She was always my favorite.
I so don't have that air. I don't know how to like listen to a song and be like, this is it. I mean, once it's a hit, of course you hear it, you're like, this is a great, I just don't, I don't know how people do that.
That was one of his great skills. He could know a hit. He could hear a hit. Yeah, he was good at that.
Well, listen, there are worse people to spend time with growing up than Dolly Parton.
Oh yeah, no, we had, it's been, I've been around a lot of very cool, famous people, but I think because of that, I have a much greater appreciation for talent than I do for fame. So if the two are combined, fantastic. If someone is super famous because they're really talented, incredible. And that can be, by the way, a reality TV personality. If it's a reality TV personality who happens to be talented at what they do on reality TV, essentially, that's cool. But if you're someone who's just sort of infamous or, I don't know, famous without anything that I think is kind of sparkly, then I don't need to be around you.
Yeah, no, I agree. I have a totally different, like when you were on my show last time, you were episode number 197, FYI, which was, it's almost
early on for you.
It's almost exactly 2 years ago, January 2nd, 2021.